If I have two compatible monsters on the field, I can use my polymerization card and fuse them into one ultimate creature.
I'm not some beginner. I know what fusion does.
Then you must know it increases my attack points. My fused Dragon Knight combo is now powerful enough to go head-to-head with your great moth.
Yu-Gi-Oh Shokan!
What?
What's up, guys? We are talking about the evolution of fusion monsters. Or the fusion mechanic. I guess it's more so the fusion mechanic itself.
I wanted to talk about this today because I think fusion summoning is like, technically it was the first like sort of special summoning mechanic.
And
like,
we all want it to work.
Even before Ritual, actually, believe it or not. Because Ritual didn't come out until Magic Ruler, I think.
Right? Who was the very first Ritual monster?
Like, Relinquish was like one of the early ones.
He was one of the early ones, but he wasn't the first, right?
We were already just like so off the top.
Yeah, we're talking about fusions!
So this video is gonna be all about fusion monsters and just how they've changed throughout Yu-Gi-Oh, where they started, where they ended up, how
you reach fusion monsters has changed drastically, but some might argue it actually hasn't changed all that much.
I think we got to start with...
It's like, let's explain what a fusion even is. How do you get there?
Conceptually, I think fusions were always going to be they were set up to be like a cool part of Yu-Gi-Oh! You remember in the show, characters would use polymerization. You know, they would always kind of conveniently have it when they needed it.
And when we were kids, we quickly realized that fusions were terrible because unlike Yugi and Joey and all them, the monsters did not magically appear in our hands in order to do a fusion summon.
The sales pitch here is that, you know, your favorite character has two monsters on the field or whatever, and they use polymerization, combine them into a stronger monster, and that will allow them to like overcome a situation. Plus the monster will look cooler, and it kind of gives your deck a little bit more flavor and identity because it's like, you know, when you combine them together, they just make, it's like your boss monster might be a fusion or something.
But we realized it was a specific 3-card combo, at least.
The mechanics in the real game just did not work that way. You had to have specifically polymerization, not a searchable card early on.
All of the fusion material monsters, at least 2.
And those early fusion monsters, as we know,
were terrible.
They were terrible. They took very specific materials.
We're talking monsters that had like 1,200 attack or less than 1,000.
Yeah, there were so many weird old fusions in like LOB. It's funny because like people, you know, like LOB is one of those sets where like you look back on it, it's like the start of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, you look back fondly.
And it's like, it's really just a bunch of
hunters.
Yeah, that's right. It's a bunch of vanillas that all have like less than 1,000 attack, and then they will combine in these very specific ways. So it's like, all right, Alec, you need to have this vanilla that's got like 700 attack. Okay. And this vanilla that's got like, you know, 900 attack.
So
and
the fusion monster is gonna have their attacks added together, right?
That's what I thought on the playground. When we would do it on the playground where we would just like make up fusion monsters, literally the rule that we would have is just like, okay, like I put the Celtic Guardian and Winged Dragon Guardian of the Fortress together, and it would have like 2,600 or 2,800, you know, whatever the sum of their attack was. Wasn't how it was though, I feel like back then.
And oftentimes the fusion monster's stats were barely better.
It'd be like, yeah, like vanilla with 700 plus vanilla with 900 gives you like a fusion with like 1,100, 1,200 attack. And I think that was like a real thing. They were that weak.
Terrible stuff.
It's funny because, you know, we talk about how like like tribute summoning back then was bad, but like fusion summoning was just worse. Like even less reward.
I mean, it was basically unusable, and we all tried to some degree. It wasn't happening.
You mean, it's funny because even the like iconic stuff that you think of, like, you know, Gaia the Dragon Champion, like still was awful. I mean, like, because you're having to run, just what you're having to run, like Curse of Dragon plus Gaia the Fierce Knight, 2 cards that are both not good stats for their level and stuff, and they're both bricks in your hand. And
think about even more ambitious ones like Dark Paladin. Both of its monsters were 2 tribute monsters.
Yeah, it's funny because like even when you look at Dark Paladin's effect, like it wasn't amazing. I think like it could like negate.
It can negate a spell, right?
A spell maybe, or like one that targets it or something.
I think it might have been a spell.
Or I think it's like discard to negate a spell or something.
You did have to discard.
Whatever it was, it wasn't good.
Yeah, and it did get the dragon boost, right?
It did get the dragon
from
boost.
Buster Blader. Yeah.
The only like good fusion, like thinking about like iconic TV show sort of ones, was like Thousand Eyes Restrict.
Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
He was the biggest disappointment to me because I remember when Kaiba summoned him and I was like, why does it have 4,500 attack?
Because a Blue Eyes
three
has
heads.
3,000. It should be 9,000.
Why is it not 9,000? Also, there was an episode where he duels Kaiba in the castle, where Kaiba, like, you know how, like, what is, like, Mammoth Graveyard and the Living Arrow poisons the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon?
yeah,
Okay,
poison.
he used a Monster Reborn to bring back one head of it. So you see, like, the melting do you remember this?
No,
This is the
wait.
thing. The Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, it's like all dark and melting, kind of melting away and losing attack points each turn. But Kaiba was able to use Monster Reborn, bring back one head, so you see one fresh looking head up here
Wait,
at 3,000 attack. People will know, if you're watching this, you will remember this.
Kaiba, come on. You're just making up rules.
Yeah, that was like how it was. So yeah, they all were bad. Like, I mean, Fusion Monsters just sucked early on.
We didn't get any decent Fusion Monsters, at least I think we didn't get any decent Fusion Monsters until Legacy of Darkness.
Yeah.
And that gave us like highlight cards like Super Robo Lady and Super Robo Yaru. Fire Fusion Monsters. So good.
In their defense, though, there were decent ones. I remember the trio of Fiend Skull Dragon, Dark Balter the Terrible, and Ryu Senshi. Not amazing by any means.
They still had hyper-specific fusion requirements, which meant you probably weren't running them.
Yeah, but they did have effects that, like, it was, I think, the first time that making a fusion monster felt like you were getting a meaningful bit of field control.
Because the monsters had stats on them, they weren't little. They each had a negate. They could actually negate something.
Yeah, they can negate something.
Specifically, but they could negate something.
Yeah, it's like you paid 1,000 and you can negate like a normal spell or like a normal trap.
And they had very specific targeting protection.
Yeah.
You know, for Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, them things were brick houses if you could actually summon them.
Yeah, and so they were still like hard to summon, but like I do think at least, you know, there was something there. I feel like, you know, it's funny, early Yu-Gi-Oh basically just fusions, I would honestly argue, were just there for flavor. They were there for like the diegetic element of like, just like, it's immersive, it's like an RPG, you know, you kind of combine these two monsters to make a stronger one. But you can clearly tell that I think they were designed and like written for the narrative of like the manga, like duels. When translating them to the game, I think that Konami pretty quickly realized there's just like, it's really hard to make these good under the parameters at that time.
To be fair, I don't even know if they necessarily wanted them to be good, more so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I draw us back to Super Robo Lady and Super Robo Yaru.
Yeah.
Most people don't remember these cards.
Yeah.
But like, I think they're worth remembering because I think they were a glimpse into fusion card design at the time. So they both actually had the same fusion requirements.
Okay,
You
I didn't
use
remember that.
Robo Lady and Robo Yaru. But on the cards themselves, they just flipped the names around.
Yeah.
So like Super Robo Lady needed Robo Lady first and Super Robo Yaru needed Robo Yaru first.
That is the ultimate just flavor. Like that's just strictly like just a flavor
And
thing.
it gets even more flavorful. Because Super Robo Lady and Super Robo Yaru could actually switch with each other.
Oh, they did? I don't
Yeah,
okay. I
you
don't remember
could
any of
send
this.
one from the field, I think, back into the extra deck to special summon the other.
Oh my gosh. Okay, they should retrain those.
Like, they really should. Downside, though, let me just double check. Yeah, they had 1,200 attack.
Yeah, so back to that old problem. There was also Flame Swordsman in the anime, who Joey would just summon like a monster.
Confused a generation of children.
Yeah, Joey summoned Flame Swordsman. And you know what else? They didn't change the color of the border. Like, he would draw his opening hand, Flame Swordsman would be in his hand, and it'd still be purple. It'd still have the purple thing, and he would just be like, yeah, like I just summoned Flame Swordsman. And it's funny because I remember when I was watching that, I didn't think anything of it because like Flame Swordsman's stats are basically just the stats of a regular level 5 at the time. So like I didn't really question him summoning it. Oh, it's just Joey's monster, it's the Flame Swordsman, whatever. But like, yeah, it was a fusion. He was just breaking the rules. Like,
That's another one of those cases where I'm extremely curious. What was the thought process in making Flame Swordsman a fusion, but the way it was marketed to us, it wasn't a fusion?
my guess is like in the early manga, it must have been just not actually a fusion in the manga, but because the anime was made while the cards were being made or something, and there was a fusion as a card. They got in this weird sticky situation.
I don't know how it worked in Japan. I mean, for us, we got the cards first. We got the anime first and then the cards.
Yeah. Yeah, the cards came out about like 5-6 months after the anime first aired here, so.
They were probably just trying to keep it all marketable. They wanted the Flame Swordsman to look like the same one you would get.
Right.
Even if, boy, you weren't gonna use it the same.
So that's early fusions, right? They're bad, they ask for too much, they give you no reward. They were mostly truly just there for to build out the world of Yu-Gi-Oh, like the flavor, but they weren't good.
At the time, fusions were used at the time, but in very niche ways that we're actually gonna talk about later.
Playing Yu-Gi-Oh can be kind of expensive, right? Right now, I'm trying to build a Radiant Typhoon deck, and some of those cards are really high. So yeah, I've actually decided to start budgeting my money, and that's where Rocket Money comes in, the sponsor of today's video. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you save time managing your finances by letting you cancel subscriptions, track spending, and create custom budgets all in one place. So as someone who used to just kind of like wing it with my checkings and savings and investments, it's nice just to get one single high-level view of all of it without having to log into a bunch of different websites and apps for updates. I have a very bad habit of signing up for subscription trials and just forgetting about them, and Rocket Money doesn't just let me track all of them, it's actually able to cancel most subscriptions with just a couple of taps within the app. My favorite underrated part is just that it gives me notifications on my phone, so whenever it detects a large purchase, or there's like an upcoming bill, or just a summary of my spending for the last month, or whatever, I always appreciate just a quick reminder of what's going on with my money. Rocket Money is free to download, but you can also get a free premium trial when you sign up with my link. Go to rocketmoney.com/teamaps. And of course, the link's in the video description too. Thanks again to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video and helping me afford our favorite, very expensive hobby. Konami, I think, as Yu-Gi-Oh was progressing, realized, okay, we are trying to still market this as an ongoing card game, and so we're going to have to try to make these mechanics at least a little bit better.
Right.
I think GX is when you see fusions truly like taking on their own strength and identity, because that was GX, right? Like,
yeah.
Everyone fusion summoned.
Well, funnily enough, it wasn't everyone.
That's true.
It's weird. It definitely marketed itself as the Fusion series, but it was actually a certain few characters who fused, and they were very prominent, and they played against a bunch of people who just had weird decks.
I think actually it's funny, GX got assigned the Fusion label after 5Ds and Zexal and stuff came out. Because basically people retroactively were like, oh, GX was the Fusion generation.
Despite the fact DM had fusions.
Yeah, DM had fusions. Now I would say though that GX popularized, more characters actively fuse in GX for sure. So I remember in the early episodes in particular, because even like Cyrus has the Roid monsters and they've got 3 or 4 different fusions that he uses. Obviously Jaden's got heroes, but
Zane
I think
did it too.
Alexis had a fusion.
Alexis had a fusion.
Zane,
Bastion had a weird deck because Water Dragon wasn't actually a fusion monster.
Yeah. There were a lot of combination monsters, I suppose.
For sure.
And then I guess as GX goes on, there are a few more. So GX gets kind of called the fusion generation, but to focus, I guess, on the cards themselves, heroes are the big one.
Yeah.
It was the first time that fusion was not just random monster over here, random monster over here. They fused to make other random monsters. Oh, okay. Sorry to go back for a second. Freaking Musician King. Do you remember this?
Lord, my boy Musician King.
Do you remember this?
I spent my childhood with
What
him.
are his materials? It's it's
Oh.
Witch of the Black Forest, right?
And
something totally random. I don't remember what it is.
it's
A
so
thing
much.
that makes sense.
Lady of Faith.
Yeah, Lady of Faith and Witch of the Black Forest.
And they made an actual rocker.
Like a rock
These
star
two
guitar.
ladies, these women, turned into him.
Johnny Stepp summoned that in the show with those 2 monsters. So yeah,
There's a reason why he lost, huh?
if he had the effects of Witch of the Black Forest, he would have been okay.
Wait, I don't think Musician King had an effect.
Yeah, he didn't have an effect. He didn't
Just
think so was there.
pure vanilla, 1750. My God.
But yeah, so I think this was the first time, moving back to heroes though, the first time that an archetype had, what?
You could make Flame Wingman, Rampart Blaster,
Thunder Giant.
Thunder
that was
Giant.
the good one.
And they were off of monsters that were
Mudball Man.
more feasible to run than what we were using before. I mean, look, Berserktrix and Avian, they sucked. Their stats were terrible. But Sparkman,
Sparkman and Clayman were okay. Bubbleman wasn't bad.
Bubbleman definitely wasn't bad.
And you were still using an archetype, which meant that they had E-Emergency Call.
Yeah.
And like they had, so like there was still something going on there. I actually even remember Jaden had Rottweiler.
Yep.
Which got back an elemental hero and a polymerization from your grave.
If you could get full value out of a Rottweiler on the schoolyard, you felt like a king.
Yeah, I remember there was a kid I knew at my library who he was like playing a hero deck, and he was able to get like one copy of Rottweiler, and it was a huge deal. Because if I'm remembering correctly, Rottweiler was kind of hard to get. Like it was like I know it's like since been reprinted in a bunch of rarities, but I think early on it was like a super rare and an ulti.
Yeah.
And so like when we were looking at like 13-year-old poor kids at our library in a small town, even just getting like one super rare is hard. And you couldn't just go on eBay and order it either. Like if you had it, you had it. If you don't, you don't. So so I remember like him getting that one Rottweiler was like, that made his day, and he's like, he finally has like
Good
one
luck
copy.
resolving the full effect.
Yeah, it was bad. But there were, like we said, like Roids, Ancient Gears, Cyber Dragons, they all refused.
Now, Ancient Gear, I wouldn't necessarily call a fusion archetype. They had one fusion.
True.
And it was the equivalent to a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
Ultimate. Ancient Gear Golem.
Like, technically easier to use than than Blue Eyes Ultimate, but not by a whole lot.
Something that I'm just noticing as I kind of talk about it, had you noticed that a lot of the fusion archetypes kind of in this era are like machines?
Yeah.
Roids, Cyber Dragon, and I think that makes sense, right?
I mean, so one of the first fusion archetypes we ever had was like the XYZs.
True.
And like, they were machines, they're used by Kaiba. So maybe the idea of like machines like combining was a theme that they wanted to work in more with.
Yeah, I will say like diegetically speaking, if we're talking like, what fits strictly in terms of flavor, machines are one of the first things. Is like they can combine their parts to kind of make new things. And it looks right. Like, oh, it's a twin-headed Cyber Dragon. They're machines, they kind of just recombine their parts. The only other ways that fusions really...
Dark Ruler.
Yeah, not to be mistaken with twin-headed Thunder Dragon.
That
was a fusion. But like the only other times that like fusions would really make sense in Yu-Gi-Oh was when it was like Gaia the Fierce Knight and Curse of Dragon he's riding it now,
the thing.
And so like it's,
Though I always questioned, why did we have fusions and unions?
That's true.
And then like the XYZ archetype literally had both.
Yeah, that is true. I guess it's like even more, yeah, why is that?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, this is a video about fusions, so we're gonna sit on it, but like, clearly GX wasn't making a whole lot of union monsters anymore.
Yeah, I guess so. Speaking of the XYZs, I know that Chaz did add the Z and the W parts to the...
Yes,
because
now it was
well.
VWXYZ.
Yeah,
Dragon Catapult Cannon! I spent a chunk of my childhood trying to summon that beautiful, beautiful beast.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it?
No. Anytime I did summon it, I lost immediately.
It's just so much to ask. There's so many resources. I think this is sort of where we started to get generally themed fusion spells, like Miracle Fusion, right?
Big one.
That's the big one. Though there was, and we'll talk about this I think a little bit more later, but like there was Overload Fusion and like Power Bond.
Power Bond was a big one from the anime.
Yeah, from the anime. I remember that was the basis of like an episode of GX was like
when Cyrus misused Zane and got mad at him.
Yeah, he's like, you don't know how to use the full potential of Power Bond like me. And
wow, Zane,
that was his
so
thing.
cool.
Yeah, well, he was. Zane was the coolest guy in school. He had his Cyber Dragons. Yeah, so you kind of started to see cards that were not named like just polymerization, and I think that was kind of crucial just because they could start to add other effects to the fusing.
Right.
Like Power Bond powers the monster up at a bit of a cost. And, we fast forward to today and like there's no archetype really expected to use poly. They all have like a in-theme way of fusing, but like this was like those early...
Nowadays you do have, there are a few archetypes where they just kind of, they search it out and recycle it for no reason at all.
That's true, actually. Tyr does that. Draco Tail kind of does it. Even like Shadal's and...
No idea why, because in archetype fusion spells are the name of the game now. Polymerization was barely even the name of the game back then, because we were making kind of substitutes for it.
Yeah, that's actually a good topic, is the support around fusion summoning. Like, I think of King of the Swamp.
That was a huge card.
That was a big deal in that.
Huge card for heroes.
For really, like, for any kid who was even just trying to fusion summon in any meaningful way, because King of the Swamp both searched for polymerization by pitching itself. So you finally had a way to get poly, because we know from playing Rare Hunters and like retro rivals that even if you want to use fusion summoning in your deck,
boy, getting those 3 specific cards in hand at once?
Yeah.
Not easy.
Did you, okay, that actually reminded me. When we played, I think it was Rare Hunters, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, polymerization wasn't printed in a mainline set, I don't think. I think it was printed in like Joey's
starter deck, yeah.
Or something.
Because it was in LOB.
Or was it? I might be forgetting.
If it was an LOB, we didn't pull it.
Yeah, all I remember is, and this might have been actually when we did Sly for Slackers. That was like our sort of sequel series where it was Sly for Slackers and we were trying to like fuse with these archetypes from GX, but we didn't have polymerization. And I think we had to make a rule to just be able to insert 3 polys into our deck if we wanted.
Because otherwise you were just not going to do it, which defeated the purpose.
Yeah, because I believe polymerization actually, it was like starter deck Joey and...
Okay, so it was a super rare in LOB, that's why we didn't do it.
Okay, so that's why we didn't think of it. Okay, sorry, take it all back, we're dumb.
But even then, like, it was a super rare in LOB.
So for a draft series...
For us, it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
But even as kids, that meant, well, you had to pull quite a bit of LOB to have enough copies of Poly. Thank God for the Joey starter deck.
Yeah, I know. Actually, just giving it to kids.
Because I mean, that was the first time I was ever able to do a fusion summon. Thousand Dragon, that was my guy.
Thousand Dragon was cool. That was actually, okay, that's a funny thing too, and like, take another detour, is these fusion monsters that both had to represent something that wasn't actually fusing, which is like, that's Thousand Dragon basically. Because in the show, it's like, Time Wizard is speeding up time so that Baby Dragon becomes Thousand Dragon.
Yeah.
But
it should be a 2-card combo.
Yeah, but in the game, they had to just translate that to, well, okay, Thousand Dragon is just a fusion monster of Time Wizard and Baby Dragon, and then you just need to have Poly for some reason.
Which I think that is BS, because Dark Sage.
Exactly, exactly, that's what I was about to say. There were a few examples like that, like Dark Sage just gets to just be there.
You have to plop it right. Now wait, what was the specific requirement? Because you have to have Dark Sage in hand?
So no, Dark Sage it got summoned from the deck. It's one of those rare monsters that summoned itself from the deck. When a Time Wizard uses its effect and you flip heads or something like that.
So the wording says, when you succeed in the effect of Time Wizard.
Oh yeah, because you get to call heads or tails, so you succeed, yeah, okay.
But like, the thing is, you have to succeed, but you still need to have a Dark Magician on field to tribute and special summon Dark Sage from the deck. That means Dark Sage activated in the deck and just plop itself to the field.
Yeah. Also,
now that's anime.
It reminds me how like the Magnet Warriors clearly were supposed to be Yugi's equivalent to kind of the XYZs, but they didn't fuse, they just summoned out Valkyrion, and you had to have Valkyrion in your hand, so it was even worse.
Terrible.
We're getting off the topic, but like, yeah, I thought that was something worth mentioning. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, so like, King of the Swamp, big deal. Do you remember Fusion Gate?
I think we all remember Fusion Gate. It was one of the earliest like fusion-related cards.
I think it came in like a starter deck too.
Was it in Joey?
I think it might have been in like
Joey
Pegasus's, or I just remember Fusion Gate was the early way that I actually was doing most of my fusion summoning. It was a common, if I remember correctly, it was easier to get than Poly, and like it let you just fuse by like banishing or removing from play or whatever it was called, the cards from your hand or field, or was it only field?
Labyrinth of Nightmare.
Labyrinth of Nightmare. What was the effect on that? Can you read like?
Yes, sir.
Read that out, because like
during the main phase, the turn player can fusion summon one fusion monster from their extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned from their hand or field.
Okay, so yeah, it's kind of funny. That was just better than Poly.
Yeah, just
like more. I mean, the monsters they get banished, so you can't bring them back. But like, it's better to just have this one field spell that will power all of your fusions,
and
than have to
with
constantly True. I don't know when terraforming even came out.
I don't remember either. In my mind,
Probably
I've
later than
always
this
had
card.
terraforming. It is one of my favorite cards in this game.
Isn't it wild that it's like banned in, or it's like at 1 in the TCG?
Yeah, it's at
banned
1.
in Master Duel.
That's how great it is, man. It stays on the ban list.
A cool thing though is that they did kind of give polymerization its own, I almost want to call it like an archetype. Like
It is weirdly an archetype.
cards like Fusion Recovery.
Yeah.
That was like an early one. I think that's like, you get back a poly and a monster that you fuse with from grave. So that was kind of cool.
I thought that was what the recycling plant did.
well,
no, that just got
Recycling
the
Plant was the
monster.
field spell.
It just got the monster. I don't think it got the
Yeah,
poly.
I think Recycling Plant was like, you could, well, Recycling Plant, okay, so first of all, Fusion Recovery. I might mess this up, someone can correct me. Fusion Recovery is like you get back a poly from your grave and a monster that was used as fusion material.
Yes.
Fusion Recycling Plant came actually way later.
Yeah, and
It was like kind
it
of
was
the-
an end phase card
The
too.
late 2010s, and it was like you could pitch a card from hand to search a poly, and then also if you fused during the end phase, you would get back one of the materials. I remember because you used it in your Amazonas deck.
It was Amazonas they became a fusion archetype, and Fusion Recycling Plant was one of the best cards you could use in it.
Yeah, it's very generic. Also, like kind of a newer sort, there's like Fusion Deployment. That's one of the cooler
Yeah,
ones.
fusion deployment.
Yeah, they made another recent similar one to Fusion Deployment that uses like only vanillas or something. It's called Fusion something. It's got the art of Flame Swordsman on it.
Ooh, I don't remember this one.
Do you remember that?
No, I'm not,
It's
I'm not
new.
familiar.
Yeah, it's very new. Either way, I'll put it up on screen or something. They even got traps. There's Fusion Reserve and Fusion Duplication. So Fusion
I do
Duplication.
remember Fusion Reserve.
I think Reserve was similar to just Fusion Recovery. Like you just got back some materials.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
But Fusion Duplication was cool because you would just apply the effect of a fusion spell in your grave or a poly.
Oh,
So like even today, that's like sometimes used in I think branded decks. Like after you use branded fusion, on your opponent's, you can like set fusion duplication, and then on your opponent's turn, gets reused that branded fusion effect. So
but I think Konami was starting to pick up that we were tired of even using these cards because soon we stopped needing a third card to fuse at all.
this is true. Enter
Contact fusing.
fusion. The idea of basically, okay, you've got the monsters in the field. Why are we wasting our time with poly?
Just plop them together.
And truthfully, I think that contact fusion makes sense, like for the most part.
I mean,
Sort of.
Yeah, because to be fair, I just don't know why we ever needed a third card to fuse. In a lot of those old Yu-Gi-Oh video games, they had fusion.
That's
they
true.
did not have polymerization.
That's true. There were some, like I remember Yu-Gi-Oh Forbidden Memories, I think it's the PS1 game, where you just hit fusion and it will just try to fuse with any two things in your hand.
Yeah.
And I think that the way they handled it then was like, there was just a set of, like a list of different fusion monsters and like general materials, and if you kind of had anything that fit into those categories, you would just make that.
I think it was similar in Duelist of the Roses. I think so. I think the same was true in the Sacred Cards. Like, we didn't use fusion, and so contact fusions actually, it felt right.
So in the
Except for the main archetype that pioneered it.
So the first one was like XYZ, Kaiba's XYZ cards. They're unions, and more importantly, they could contact fuse to make like XY dragon and YZ dragon, and then the big boss was like XYZ dragon cannon.
Did we call it contact fusing back then?
Contact fusion was really like a player-made name, I think. Like,
Oh, I thought that you said in the anime. Did I not?
I think, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that in the anime, the only thing that referred to contact fusion was the Neos, like the Neospatial.
Yeah.
Because they actually had cards called Convert Contact and like whatever. So I think that was their in lore name for what Neos was like doing when he merged with a Neospatian. It was
Right.
contact fusion. But we took on that word and like we call like all of them.
So this is interesting. The Yu-Gi-Oh Wikia has a definition.
What do they say?
Contact fusion is a semi-official term which means to special summon a fusion monster with its own summoning procedure instead of requiring polymerization or card effects.
Yeah.
And then it says, contact fusion is not a fusion summon. I think that's something that's
Typically it's not, yeah.
I always forget that.
That is true. It's interesting because it means that basically the fusion monster that you summon cannot be revived with Monster Reborn later on because it was not properly fusion summoned.
Even though the card told you to summon it that way.
Yeah, that was always a little weird. And there are some new ones that have even kind of circumvented that by saying that this is treated as a fusion
Yeah,
summon.
they an extra little line of text because our cards they need more text.
So we started with the XYZs. Cyber Dragons did have one contact fusion early on with Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon.
I mean, that was a meta-defining card. Like that was.
It sort of. I remember it came out in a Shonen Jump issue.
I remember I had it.
Yeah, and it was cool because you could turn all of your machines into one, but also if you were facing a machine
That's
deck,
where
that was where it
became
became
meta right there.
Yeah, you could side deck
It
Cyber Dragon against
hurt
like
machine decks
and like Gear type decks
for
and
years, guys.
and like take their field. However, the anime one that we just talked about was Neospatians. They popularized contact fusion while also being
they did it the worst.
the worst.
Because so Cyber Dragons, when you make Chimera Tech, they go to the graveyard like a normal fusion summon. But the Neospatians, they had to get shuffled into the deck.
And that alone wouldn't be that bad.
It wouldn't be that bad if their fusion monsters would actually stay on the field.
Yeah, that was their whole defining thing, was like the fusion monsters would, like they'd have like a decent effect. It'd be
Yeah.
Neos plus a Neospatian. Like Elemental Hero Neos.
And it had to happen on the field. You couldn't have one in hand.
Yeah, they had to get an Elemental Hero Neos out. God, level 7,
tributes.
2 tribute monster, whatever. And then these like weak little Neospatians that would usually die. You had to get them both out, return them to the deck, make this cool fusion monster without having to use poly. And the fusion monsters would actually have like decent effects. Some of them are still technically used, like the Aqua
Like Aqua Dolphin.
Dolphin or whatever, like
Yeah.
Aqua Neos.
And they made a lot of them. They've made a lot of those little bastards. But the thing is, they shuffle themselves back, or shuffle. They go back to the extra deck at the end of your turn, and you
for
don't
nothing.
get your materials back.
Yeah, for nothing, for no reward.
So you get good job. You have an empty board.
Now, wasn't it that like if you had the Neospace field spell that they didn't
Yeah. So Neospace would anchor them into the
to the field or whatever?
Earth, I guess. I don't know why we called them from space and they're trying to leave immediately. Then we have to play an extra card to make them stay. It's like clearly this is a dysfunctional relationship. Let them Neospatians go.
I remember that there's an equip spell. There was like a sort of temporary Neospace you could equip to one
Pseudo-space, I think it was called.
Pseudo-space or something.
Very strange.
Pseudo-space is like a different card.
Was that a different one?
I think Pseudo-space is like either way, there was an equip spell.
There was one. But regardless, they were the face of contact fusions. They pretty much did it the worst.
Right up until the GX archetype, right towards the end, that blew contact fusion like out of the water, which is Gladiator Beasts. Gladiator Beasts were known for contact fusing. They did it easily the best. You return these monsters to your deck, and you summon some very powerful fusion monsters, most notably Gladiator Beast Gazar, Gladiator Beast Heraclinos. There were others that didn't get used as much, like I think Gaio Diaz and stuff. And like, these monsters had good effects. This was, Gazaras popped 2, and then he had 2400 attack, and when he battled, he would jump back to the extra deck if you wanted him to, and summon out 2 more Gladiator Beasts back from your deck. So basically what the Neos cards were.
Replacing themselves.
Yeah,
Come on,
themselves.
Neos.
And the new Glads would get effects, and it was really good. And like Gladiator Beasts went on to be a powerful meta archetype. Like they were defining a generation of like kind of late Yu-Gi-Oh GX, like 2008 sort of meta. And so yeah, that was like a really cool thing. They've gotten new support and stuff over the years. And then later on, they just they did this a few other times, like Ritual Beasts kind of are.
Yeah, they kind of do a contact fuse. A lot of times when decks would get like a 1 or 2 fight fusion monster, they would just have them contact fuse. They were gonna make you play polymerization.
Yeah, I remember Ninjas with their newest line of support, with like that's Mazen and
Mazen and
yeah. Oh, his name's
Yagamaru?
Yeah, it's like a longer.
Whatever the name is, I'm pretty sure I just said a random Japanese.
Yeah,
thing.
they contact by literally just sending the monsters from field to grave. It's like a link summon, basically.
Yeah. Which you might notice with all Yu-Gi-Oh summoning types, they start to look a lot like
they all begin to
link
converge
summoning.
into link summoning. Gate Guardians, when they got their new support, also did this.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, I think that flavor-wise, that is spot on.
Yes. If anybody should be contact fusing, it's Gate Guardian.
Yeah, I like that they basically kind of split them up like the XYZ Dragon Cannon series, where like
they can be in pieces.
They had like double pieces and then also one with all 3. And I think that like, yeah, like you said, I think it deserves to contact fuse. It's probably Gate Guardian.
Because it just should have been one to begin with.
There are some one-off ones I just wanted to mention. Armatile, the Chaos Phantom.
Hey, raise your hand if you summoned Armatile.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
You know someone has though, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone has.
So yeah, Contact Fusion I think is probably, that was the first time that I think fusions as a concept were a part of the meta, outside of some miscellaneous examples we're gonna talk about a little bit later. But
Now I have a question.
yes.
Is Thunder Dragon Colossus a Contact Fusion?
It's almost in that next category of like hyper modernized Yu-Gi-Oh where you just fulfill this condition and now you contribute any Thunder monster and he's just there.
Because it's a 1-for-1. It's basically a Link 1, but it's got a floodgate effect and a big body that has a protection effect at that.
So Contact Fusion took the poly out of the equation, but what about for decks that still want to use poly or a fusion spell, but then they need to instead address like the next issue that fusions have, which was that specific material thing.
Oh man, you just start making it vague, bro. Like,
Yep.
gone are the days of needing Witch of the Black Forest and Lady of Faith.
Yeah, so this is where we started to see Konami basically do like, one material is named and one's just vague and ambiguous.
I think a great example is like the Omni Heroes, where they would require like a hero monster and a water, a hero monster and a fire.
I do remember these being pretty big parts of the meta, like the hero deck with like Absolute Zero and the Shining.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like a hero and a light. And they also got like, you know, hero and a wind and stuff like that. Also, shout out to the masked heroes. Those kind of came later, but like those aren't fusions. They're just
They're
fusions.
fusion cards.
Yeah, they're not fusing. They're just changing their mask.
And that's essentially a 2-card play, right? Because you have to have a elemental hero on board and then a mass change card.
Yeah. So technically a lot easier than fusing.
Well, you
'Cause
still
it
have to
could
get the first one on field.
Well, yeah, but it could be like any elemental hero. It didn't have to be a fusion.
True, yeah.
Because I remember like Shadow Mist, that was like the whole thing. Like
Yep.
you'd summon Shadow Mist, just mass change it into Dark Law, and
Like we you know, at this point, Konami's playing it really fast and loose with making cards fusion colored, and then the mechanic that summons them is not at all a
not
fusion
really
summon.
fusion. I mean, I think in a sense though, they were kind of locked into fusion because like heroes need to sort of stay fusion up until they don't. They get their link monsters, which we've seen plenty of those. So I guess I'm really lying and bullshitting, but I think they wanted masked heroes to stay fusion because I think he uses them in like the manga or something. and-
Yeah, the mass heroes, they were a manga archetype, and so that's why they look a little different and they work a little different from your elemental heroes. But ever since they started calling the archetype of heroes Hero, capital Hero,
Yeah.
it all just works together in one ugly soup.
Some other trends that you see with the less specific materials were in Shadal's, where it was just
Oh, they
like
were good for it.
hyper, you know, it's like Shadal plus a dark, Shadal plus earth, Shadal plus a light. And
They
all
made
of
the
their
Shadal deck so like
was so
resilient at one point.
and so buttery smooth. Like you can kind of combine Shadal's with another little mini engine that's like Earth, and now you're just making Shekinaga really easily, or you're making Wendigo really easily, or you know, whatever.
Ever since, because like, I don't know if you guys remember how Shadal's work. When Shadal's first came out, we were making Construct constantly, and Winda.
Yeah.
So you played it with like a light engine next to it. What was it? Satellar Knights was a popular one?
You could use it with a lot of them.
Like any type of like
Perform
monster
Age.
you're using.
What was the Perform Pal Hat Tricker?
Hat Tricker, or whichever one.
Trick Clown.
Trick Clown.
Yeah, Trick Clown. Sometimes Light Sworn stuff.
Anything that could get you a light so that you could make your Construct and then still get value out of it was fire.
Yeah.
But then Construct got banned and they just kind of moved to the next best thing. They didn't use Shekinaga before, but Shekinaga's a Shadal plus an Earth. So
Yeah.
then we were using Earth text in the
I remember
deck.
Mathematician was
Oh,
the
that
one
was
that
a
they would
big one.
use.
Yeah.
Because it was an Earth monster and it would like send a card from deck, so it could actually send this at all or something. Also, Alistair and Friends, Alistair the Invoker, he was another one of those like archetypes where he would search for Invocation, which was his own themed sort of fusion spell. And then it was just Alistair plus an element.
Yeah.
And that would make any number of boss monsters.
I'm gonna start calling these like the Omni archetypes because they were all like Omni heroes.
Yeah.
And it was just it was elements,
the
attribute-based.
Omni Fusions, I
Yeah.
guess, or whatever. Yeah, so I always liked Alistair the Invoker. That was actually a deck I remember playing for a while. So it was fun.
Yeah, but power creep is a thing.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty limiting just summoning our fusion monsters using the hand in the field. So Nami started printing cards to let us fuse from other places.
Yeah, and we'd seen this as early as Miracle Fusion, like we've mentioned, but I think that the real kicker is when you get to start using those fusion materials from the deck.
That I think was So Future Fusion was the first card that lets you fuse from a deck, right?
True, that is true.
And it got quickly
banned. I say quickly. It took a while. It only really, because Future Fusion got to be around for like a couple of years. Because I remember playing with it being legal. I think it finally got banned when like dragons started to get support that was like really good in the graveyard. Because you could use Future Fusion and reveal a 5-headed dragon, and now you'd be like foolish barreling 5 dragons at once.
I'm assuming this is before Eclipse Wyvern.
It was right around Eclipse Wyvern.
Oh, okay.
Like Eclipse Wyvern came out, and that's shortly after it was when Future Fusion got banned. Because you dig Future Fusion and send like Eclipse Wyvern and any other like Red Eyes, Darkness Metal, Dragon, all these, you know, those sorts of cards.
Problematic stuff.
Yeah. So, but we got plenty more. There were things like Shaddoll Fusion, I think, was the first one where like it popularized sending from deck. Although it did have the stipulation that your opponent had to have a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck on the field.
Look how balanced it was. We weren't calling it balanced back then, though.
Yeah, I mean, it felt pretty strong even back then. But then there's also Red Eyes Fusion.
Overly balanced for no apparent reason.
Overly balanced. Only really was useful when you could kind of cheat it.
For context, guys, Red Eyes Fusion did let you send both your monsters from the deck to do your fusion summon, but you were literally not allowed to activate other cards for the rest of the turn or normal summon.
Yeah, you couldn't summon. You could activate other cards, you couldn't summon anything else.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It locked you out of summoning other things, but I think you could set?
You could set. You could set your Red Eyes Baby Dragon.
I would set Red Eyes Baby Dragon.
That's all you could do. And we've seen it, you know, with Fusion Destiny. Cyberload Fusion uses banished cards. It's kind of a cool thing.
I've always been upset with Konami for letting us do things with cards that were removed from play.
Yeah, okay. And also, just before I forget, Odd Eyes Fusion used Face Up Extra Deck. Kind of a pendulum thing.
Ruling nightmare.
But I think, and like Ketu Draco Tail is I guess the most recent example.
Yeah, but you're really only sending one from the deck.
My gripe with these cards, you know, outside of maybe how balanced or whatever they are, like Random Fusion is really powerful, is more so actually just that like I don't feel like it's fusion summoning anymore, because this is speaking strictly like, you know, diegetics, right? Is, you know, Fusion was always like you still had the resources available to you. Like Yugi had the monster in his hand or on the field and you fused with that. The idea of a card that just sort of like sends them from your repository, from your deck, like they haven't even made their way into the game yet. Because like just speaking like narratively, it's like, okay, you get one monster out, you get another monster out. They're pretty strong, but like together they can combine to be even stronger. When the materials are coming from the deck, it cheapens it.
I mean, it removes like the risk factor, because before we were fusing from other places, to do a fusion summon, regardless of how good the monster you're making was, it meant that you were taking 3 resources and dumping them into the grave immediately. 3 cards that you could have used, that could have saved you.
Yeah, you were committing a lot of cards to the fusion summon, and with these new cards, that's just not the case.
In a weird way, that's worse than a tribute summon.
Yeah, so it's, you know, now it's like, well, branded fusion is, there's no real commitment to it. Like,
no, I mean,
you play one spell and you get one monster. And
if it doesn't work out, you only lost 1 card.
Yeah, and so that's kind of, I think, lore immersively speaking, like I don't love the concept of like sending from deck. That's all balance aside, you know, whatever, but there's also a time when they started just having the monsters do the fusing. Like the monsters would have an effect that would fuse.
For me, the monster that comes to mind the most is a Swirl Slime.
Yeah.
Because DDs came out, and Swirl Slime enabled you to combo like nobody's business at the time. Because Swirl Slime just lets you fusion summon into a DDD monster. You would just try to get that Swirl Slime back into rotation many times you could during your combo.
It was what, Swirl Slime and like Necro Slime, I think.
Yeah, Swirl Slime and Necro.
Because I think Swirl Slime like fuse on field, Necro Slime fuse in grave. I've also got like, I know like Lunalights have one. There's like Performapal Odd Eyes Dissolver. I remember that was like kind of a whole thing.
I remember when Dissolver first came out, because we were on our way to was it a YCS in Chicago?
That was the Nationals. That was Nats. 2017.
That was Nats in Chicago. And it released that same weekend. And I ran a Performapal deck. I was so excited for Dissolver. It was the only thing I wanted all weekend.
It was like a Battles of Legend card.
I intended to scrub out in the tournament and like fight like hell to get my hands on a Dissolver.
Yeah, and nowadays it's a lot more normal. Like when I look at something like Draco Tales or Branded, I mean like there's Blazing Cartesia.
Yeah.
She just independently fusion summons. Technically Fallen of Albaz does too.
Yep.
Really. And then like Draco Tail Phimena.
Phimena,
She just pitches. She didn't have to get to the field to do it.
No, she does it in hand.
She pitches herself and then
Malulu does it on field.
Malulu does do it on field. I think the tier limits obviously have to be in this conversation somewhere.
I don't want them to be, but sure.
They were unique. When they got sent to the graveyard by a card effect, they would fusion summon by shuffling the materials from your hand, field, or grave back into the deck. So it was like a weird
future plays.
Weird form of like proactive contact fusion, whatever.
You were recycling, but no one asked you to.
Yeah. You didn't get permission or consent from your opponent. Yeah, so I always thought that like monsters doing the fusing was cool, and I don't hate it in concept. Like I don't dislike, like I was saying, like I don't really love like branded fusion and like shit, like all these like send from deck things.
Yeah, you're fusing from different places.
But I don't mind the idea of a monster doing it because I can wrap my brain around the idea of a monster that has the ability to kind of conduct it. Like I'm talking like immersively speaking.
I mean, if we're talking about immersively speaking, what about Swirl Slime says, I let you fuse?
That I don't know. But I can see like Phimena, because like in her artwork, she's, she looks like she kind of would have the
summoning something.
The power to like, conjure something. Her magic kind of allows you to.
I think the same thing when I look at Malulu. No, I don't.
I don't know what Malulu is. I don't really know what Blazing Cartesia is. She I guess she has the magical
things.
power of it. Because she's, whatever.
It works, all right? It works.
It's something. All right, last miscellaneous fusion things that I kind of didn't really have like a category when we made the outline. We were just like, well, first of all, I do want to say that while a lot of people complain about like cheating fusions out, we technically have kind of complained about cheating fusions.
Sure.
It's not actually a new thing.
No, really the first way we were able to utilize fusions in this game was by cheating them out, because we weren't about to get those hyper-specific fusion materials and a polymerization.
Yeah, this is all magical scientist and what is the spell? It's banned.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. I was gonna say megamorph. Yeah, metamorphosis. Magical scientist was busted. He was
crazy busted.
This little like level 1 monster. It's like you pay 1,000 life points. You just summon a
Was it only 1,000?
Yeah, like you pay 1,000 because you're also thinking of because there's one other that I didn't add here, but that's what is the machine guy?
A machine guy?
Yeah, he's oh God. I'm so mad that I'm forgetting his name because he got unbanned briefly and then got banned again. He's the one where you pay Cyberstein.
Cyberstein, you paid half.
Yeah, 5,000.
Oh, 5,000. Okay.
Yeah, so there was magical scientist who was you paid 1,000 and you summoned a level 5 or lower fusion, or like 6 or lower fusion from your fusion deck, and there was no limit to how many times you could do this. I think the only restriction was like the monster couldn't attack, maybe, or something like that.
Which, I mean, if you're popping out big bodies for free,
they can still be like tribute material, they can still be many things. They were coming from the fusion deck, so it was free, like resource-wise. Then there was Cyberstein, who was pay 5,000, summon any fusion.
It's a blank check.
It's a blank check. You could summon a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Boom, he's there. It's a lot of life points, but like that's still insane. And you know what's wild? He got unbanned a few years ago. They unbanned him for like a couple formats, and then Modern Yu-Gi-Oh did its combo deck thing and was searching him, and they could like
out of hand.
They would summon like Nichiria, Exterio.
Because we have some pretty obscene fusion monsters. They have crazy fusion requirements to make it to balance them. Yeah. But then there are cards like Cyberstein that says, I don't care what your requirements are.
And then
show up.
And then there's Metamorphosis, which that's the one I'm the least familiar with. But basically, it's like you tribute a monster and you summon a fusion monster that has the same level as it.
No. Or
something like that.
You use Metamorphosis to make Neo Bubbleman.
Right, that's right. That's true. Yeah, Neo Bubbleman, the infamous card that cannot be legally summoned because Metamorphosis just isn't a thing. Yeah, but Metamorphosis was really, these were all these early things really were pretty much just what got like Thousand Eyes Restrict banned.
Yeah.
Like, because Thousand Eyes Restrict was, like we said at the front of the video, the only truly good early fusion.
Because I mean, it was just a better relinquished.
Yeah, it froze everything from attacking.
It still took something.
Yeah, it still took something, and like it froze attacks, and so like it was a very annoying card for judges even, because like it would just make tournament games last forever, all kinds of problems. So yeah, like people have been cheating out cards. Like there's been a history of cheating out fusions. Even like instant fusion, I think that was kind of more of a GX era thing.
Yeah.
But
Instant
it wasn't
Fusion,
bad.
it wasn't. I don't know. I'm so mixed on Instant Fusion because when I played actively, Instant Fusion was very much live, and it was a quick way to get material for something out onto the field.
See, that's what it was. Instant Fusion took on more of a like material role.
It was like it was an extending card.
Because it was only a level 5 or lower fusion, and it would get like destroyed at the end of the turn.
Yep.
But I remember there were times when you would just kind of use it as like just material for Xyz summons.
Yep.
Like you just get a level 4 and it was a special summon so you can make your rank 4s easier. I remember Sea Monster of Theseus
Oh yeah.
was like a thing where it was like a tuner, it was a level 5 zombie tuner, so like
Yep.
it kind of was
So you
useful.
would Instant Fusion it out, and then you can actually use it for other means.
And then Tearlaments Kit Callus got it banned. Because Tearlaments Kit Callus was level 5 and it got all its effects and did all its bullshit.
They did retrain Instant Fusion, right? What, Ready-Made Fusion? was it?
Ready Fusion.
Ready Fusion.
Which I think can only summon vanilla ones, like a fusion without an effect.
Yay!
So, very nerfed. But, you know, like, it's still, like we said in the errata video, it is better to retrain the card than errata the original and make the original just useless.
Agreed.
So.
100% agreed.
And I guess the last thing with fusions is just like, there were like the occasional, like Super Poly, I feel like kind of gets its own little mini category of like, it's a board clearing card.
A card that has, since its inception, has always existed in like the back of every Yu-Gi-Oh player's mind because Future Fusion, it was a quick play.
Yeah.
And you could, there was
Super
nothing,
Poly.
My bad.
Yeah.
Super Poly was a quick play, and there wasn't anything you could really do about it.
Yeah, it's unreactable. Up for a long time, it kind of went under the radar because there just weren't really great things to be summoning. Like nowadays, you know, you can make Guru and Mud Dragon of the Swamp and Starving
It's like
Venom.
a simple person's mind might think, how do I play Super Poly to like make a better, like using my monsters to make a better board? But what happened in the metagame was we were using Super Poly to break our opponent's boards, fusing their things off.
Because like early on, if you think about it, like, okay, I'm a hero player and I'm using Super Poly. I'm basically banking on my opponent also playing heroes and I can use their heroes and my heroes to do. But that isn't going to realistically happen. But now that we have fusions that are just like, you know, just two darks on the field.
Two different attributes.
Or two different attributes or something. Yeah, you can actually use Super Poly in that way. It's a different brand of fusion, sort of in a way, but like it is still fusion, so yeah.
I remember, like, you know, anybody who's ever played, like, you know, zombies in Zombie World, you know, we used to have Zombie World plus Super Poly. You make both you and your opponent's monsters are all zombies now. Fuse them away, because we had generic zombie fusions.
There were generic zombies, yeah. Then there's a few other like little ones that have popped up. Even today, like Draco Tail does not like Secretarian Dragon. They use it themselves, but it just takes a dragon and a spellcaster, so they can fall victim to it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically fusion summoning throughout the ages.
We've come a long way.
We have. I think that fusion started in a truly terrible place.
Woo! Super Robo Lady and Super Yaru.
Yeah, not even, I mean, Sandwich, Musician King.
Oh yeah, even worse.
Even worse. And just, they were bad for all these reasons, and slowly Konami has turned them into something that's very playable. They've had to take some cues from, you know, like either contact fusing and like fusing from deck and kind of using them like link monsters. But we got here in the end, and now fusions are pretty good.
Yeah, they're like purple link monsters.
Yeah. So overall, very fun. And if you guys want to see us talk about any other fusion related, like not related mechanic, like I was thinking we could do one of these ritual monsters maybe next.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, so thumbs up if you want to see that video. And also click here for the playlist where we do this sort of stuff every week, twice a week. We just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh things.
Yep.
It's right there. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one then.
Pass turn.
Pass turn.